Welcome back to the magical and mystical.
And wonderful.
Yes, and wonderful adventures of Gordon. Episode 6, The Plot Thickens. Well, now then, it's been quite a while, and I must say I've missed this, the ranting and raving like a complete lunatic about Gordon and the family. So, where did we leave off? Let me see if I can sum everything up. So, Gordon and his family had been taken on a wild and wonderful adventure into a magical quilt world where they met some quirky characters, some good, others bad, and a few just plain evil. Gordon ended up rescuing his family and thought everything was tickety-boo when the evil King Schwebbie escaped from the land of the quilt into our world and tried to take over everything. But Gordon and the gang thought they had stopped him and are currently pleasantly unaware that he is still on the loose. Yes, I think that's it, and without further ado, let us continue. Gordon, Wisa, William, Polly, and Nannans stood saying their final goodbyes to the wonderful Ella.
Thank you so much for all your help. I will return to the magical quilt world that is my home within the quilt and start to rebuild it for all the people. When it is ready, I'll return and search for all the missing townspeople and take them back if they want to go.
Gordon stepped forward and looked a little red in the face. He really liked Ella and didn't want her to leave, but he understood.
Thanks for everything, Ella. Group hug. Come on, guys, bring it in.
The gang smushed themselves together, embracing Ella with a firm bear hug. After all the air in their lungs was squished out, they let go. Chips, the humongous bull-mastiff dog, gave his classical kisses and covered them all with loving, slimy drool. They all needed a shower now. Such a lovely boy. As they thought peace was restored, Ella had to go, and without further ado, it was time for Ella to leave. Ella put one hand on Chips and the other on the quilt, which sucked them both in. Nannan grabbed her stick and used it to put the quilt into the corner of the room.
Come on, I'll make a brew.
The family withdrew to the kitchen for a drink before they all went home. Nannan dished out cups of tea and hot chocolates, of course. After they had finished their tea and hot chocolates, they were chatting away when Mildred and Grandad walked in from their own mini-adventure.
Right, you two. To the car. We're off home now.
They didn't protest at all and went to Mildred's mini-car, which was parked outside. Mildred got into the car and they waved goodbye to Nannan, Grandad, Wisa, and Ian. They were all pooped and could barely open their eyes. Pumping the gas pedal, Mildred's little car rocketed down the country lanes. Thank goodness for the seat belts, as they would have all flown all over the place like rag dolls. Apart from little Cookie, of course, she sat in the stairwell staring into space or another dimension as usual, and she didn't really move to say the car was rocking to and fro, but anyway. Gordon and Polly, despite the bumpy ride, were dropping off to sleep. Finally, they pulled up at their little home on the hill and dragged their weary little heads out of the car and to their beds. Now let me just add a little comment. Have you ever been that tired that when your head touched the pillow you melted in and fell asleep, your mouth dropping open and the formation of corner mouth drool beginning to form? Well, I'm sure you have, and this is how tired they all were, and instantly fell into a deep, drooly, melted sleep. They slept for about 14 hours before beginning to stir. Polly was the first to awaken, her eyes jolting open. Her little legs were quite sore from all the adventuring, so she steadily threw back the quilt and decided to go to check on Gordon. She had finally learned not to surprise him now, so stealthily crept along the corridor to his room. Peeking in, her eyes widened. His bed, it was made. It looked as if it hadn't even been slept in, and with militaristic precision. How weird. Polly shrugged her shoulders and went on towards her mother Mildred's room. Upon opening the door, Polly saw her militaristic mother Mildred sitting at her dressing table facing the mirror. She was wearing a scarf around her neck and didn't move for a moment. Polly thought this was weird, as she would hear a pin drop a mile away and usually fire a command at her. She shrugged her shoulders again and thought it was because she was tired. Turning sharply, she shot downstairs to rustle up some grub. Seeing as Gordon had devoured the remaining cereal, she found some bread to make jam apple on toast. Yes, you heard me correct. Jam apple on toast, and they have to be green apples. Make sure they're green if you make them. The acidic content in the green apples goes perfect with the jam. Just thought you'd like to know. Anyway, as the toaster popped up, it was as if by magic that Cookie appeared, raising her little paw to ask Polly for a piece. So, as a treat, Polly popped in another slice, and Cookie sat there waiting, with little strings of drool dangling down from her face. Devouring the jam and apple on toast brought a pleasant feeling to Polly's stomach, and she smiled. The toaster suddenly popped up again, so Polly began to butter the toast for Cookie, as Cookie absolutely would do anything for butter. Then she decided she would continue her search for Gordon. She looked in all the usual and some unusual places in her search, but alas, she couldn't find Gordon anywhere at all. How very weird. The house was oddly quiet. Even the birds outside weren't singing their usual tune. Then, out of the silence, there came the familiar sound of feet coming down the stairs. It must have been Gordon, Polly thought, so she rushed to the bottom of the stairs. Nope, not Gordon. It was Mildred, who didn't pay much attention to Polly and went into the kitchen, sat down on a stool and stared out of the window. She was being just plain weird. Polly slowly walked into the kitchen, quite perplexed, and just as she was about to speak, Mildred's head sharply turned to Polly and began to cut her off.
Time for your chores.
Just as Polly was about to protest and ask about Gordon, Mildred spoke again and cut her off again. How annoying.
Toilets want cleaning, carpets hoovering, and clothes need washing.
With a huge sigh, she dragged her weary body and confused head to the cupboard to get the cleaning supplies. As she began to scrub the downstairs toilet, Cookie waltzed over to Polly, plonked her bottom down, and made her classical "look at me, there is something wrong" noise. Cookie only ever did this when there was something seriously wrong. Polly scratched her head and began to think what on earth could be the problem now. She decided to not make a fuss and get on with her chores while she figured things out. Polly got the hoover out and began to hoover the kitchen and noticed Mildred had not moved an inch, which was... this is just quite strange. It's weird. I know I keep saying it, but it keeps popping into my head. It's just plain weird. She was sat wearing that weird-looking... again, the word weird. Sat wearing that really funky odd-looking scarf, that's better, around her neck, staring out of the window with a glazed expression on her face. Polly hoovered every inch of the kitchen, trying to act as normal as possible, but she knew something was wrong. Just remember, Cookie always made her weird noise, which definitely meant danger was afoot. Oh, dear. After hoovering the kitchen, little Polly took off the hoover bag, which was full of dirt and dog hairs and various other bits of muck. She took it to the bin and shoved it in the best she could, but the bin bag was full, and so Polly tied a knot in the top and was about to change it when Mildred's head shot around and gave her a weird, again, the word weird, gave her a weird, very weird gaze.
Leave it.
Polly was quite puzzled as to why she didn't have to take the rubbish outside, as it was her job to do the recycling.
Why, Mum? I always take out the rubbish.
Mildred didn't speak for a moment, and there was an awkward silence.
Because I told you not to. Now go to your room and stay there.
Mum, I want to play outside. It's nice.
Mildred's head turned to the window, and true to Polly's word, it was a sun-shining, happy day. Mildred crossed over to the countertop and flicked a switch on the wall. Quite odd behaviour, as she couldn't seem to hold a conversation, and her voice sounded a little strange.
It's going to rain, Polly. You have to stay inside.
But it's sunshine.
Before she could finish her sentence, the weather outside changed. It was as though someone had flicked a switch, like the switch that Mildred had just flicked. Yes, the windows were now pelted with rain, and with that, Polly didn't know what to say.
To your room now.
Mum, can't I play down here?
No, you have to go to your room. I'll bring you up something to eat in a moment.
Polly, with an air of defiance, turned and went to her room. Cookie followed her and jumped onto the windowsill, watching the rainfall outside. Polly sat on her bed in a huff and sighed. She was really puzzled as to where Gorgon was and why Mildred was being extra militaristic and just plain... You thought I was going to say it, didn't you? You thought I was going to say she was just being plain weird. Well, I am. She was being plain weird. Mildred knocked on her door and brought in cookies and milk, plunked them on the windowsill, and exited sharply without saying anything at all. Little Polly's eyes shot to the cookies and milk. They were her favourite, and she loved chocolate chips. This was strange, because she wouldn't be allowed cookies until after lunch, not before, never, no. Reaching for the cookies, Polly couldn't wait to sink her teeth into the sweet treats and chug the full-fat milk down in one. But Cookie, not the cookies on the plate, the little dog, made her weird, alerting noise and placed her paw on the cookies and growled. Now, just to let you know, Cookie very rarely growled, so there must have been something very, very wrong. Polly decided to leave the sweet treats, which took all the willpower that she had. Her and Cookie took to laying on the bed. She pondered what was going on and why wasn't she allowed to go outside. At that precise moment, a little mouse scurried across the window ledge and began tucking into the cookies. Polly was about to get up to see if she could capture the little rogue when it flopped onto its side. Polly peered over and could see the mouse was still breathing, so it must have fallen to sleep. Polly's heart was beating very fast, as she couldn't believe her mum had laced the food with some sort of sleeping tablet. Why did she need Polly to stay in her room, and why did she want her to go to sleep? Where was Gordon? What was Cookie whining about? Oh, so many unanswered questions. Oh! She needed to make a plan, and fast. She stared out of the window and watched the little squirrels scurrying across the tree branches. And then one squirrel gained tremendous speed and was about to leap onto another tree, and it vanished. Polly sat to attention and rubbed her eyes in disbelief. Surely that didn't just happen, and she must have just blinked or something. So Polly focused on everything outside of the window and looked at anything that was out of place. 5 minutes went by and nothing had changed at all, but she had noticed one thing. All the animals were repeating some weird pattern, and they were doing it flawlessly, as though they had been rehearsing a play with laser-like precision. It was like watching your favorite film over and 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 over again, or listening to me say the word weird, you know, and you memorize every little gesture and facial expression. You could literally dictate the film, or dictate that I was going to say that this was just plain weird. Anyway, it wasn't natural, and confirmed to Polly that there was definitely something amiss. Thinking fast, she decided to try and fool Mildred to see how she would respond. Polly took a cookie off of the plate and broke it into two, shoving one half under the bed and placing the other half on the pillow next to her. She then pretended to sleep, and after about 10 minutes her door creaked open and Mildred entered the room inspecting sleeping Polly and turned like a guard and was about to exit the room when Cookie sprang into action and grabbed one of the trailing ends of the scarf, pulling it off of Mildred's neck. Polly slightly opened one of her eyes and could see Cookie pulling at the scarf. It was a real struggle between Cookie and Mildred, but little Cookie did all she could, throwing her head back and forth, ragging the scarf, revealing Mildred's neck. As Mildred heaved the scarf back into her possession, Polly noticed a flashing red dot on the back of her neck. Mildred had now regained the scarf and covered her neck up again. Polly decided to play dumb and stirred a little bit as if waking up, and noticed Mildred exited the room swiftly. Polly and Cookie sat next to each other with a puzzled look on their faces. What on earth was going on? What did Mildred have on her neck? Will Polly get out of this mess and figure out what the heck is going on? Find out in our next episode of the magical and mystical and wonderful, yes, and wonderful adventures of Gordon. I mean, adventures of Polly? Because where is our Gordy? Oh. See you next time. Please like, share, and enjoy.